Hey there, welcome to Friday Night Live with your hosts Ben and Rob. We all love that Halloween season means Nestle chocolate, but did you know that Nestle is a huge provider of infant formula to entire countries?
Well, except for China, because Nestle is closing their factories that service the nation as Chinese birth rates plummet. What's really going on in the land of the CCB?
Over in America, the Pentagon is receiving dozens of UFO reports every month. What do you think they're really seeing? We'll also explore the UFO cover-up during the Cold War tonight. It's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. So on this Friday Night Live, we'll also do a deep dive into quartz crystals. Do they have special properties? Do people like them so much?
Why do people
like them so much? Yeah. Were Atlanteans and ancient civilizations using crystal technology?
Well, join Edge of Wonder live for a weekly Mandela Effect, a Q&A, the top 10 weirder news of the week to keep you all laughing, and we'll see you out
on the edge. And if you're listening to the Edge of Wonder podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or elsewhere, please leave us a 5-star rating and review to help us even reach more people. And Thank you. And subscribe and follow and share this content.
Ben, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm doing better. I mean, yeah, I'm actually okay. I just got like some congestion and whatnot. But yeah, other than that, I'm doing pretty okay. Got like a slight headache again, but I actually get headaches like I kind of get them once a week.
Mostly. Oh, really?
Yeah, just like when I'll wake up some nights like sleeping weird, and then I'm kind of used to having them. It's not really like that big a deal to me, but migraines are the ones where I'm like I can't handle migraines. That's
I've never really had like a splitting headache, migraine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get headaches too often, but when I get them, I'm like, something's up. Like I know something's up if I get a headache, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Wow.
Yeah.
I used to get migraines like a long time ago, a lot. And then, now I got them so often that I started realizing what was triggering them. And sometimes it can be chocolate, believe it or not.
What about the chocolate?
Certain chocolates, it's like if it's too rich or something, I don't know.
But do you think it's the like toxins in the chocolate, or it's a certain type of other chemical in the chocolate?
Could be something in the chemical in the chocolate. It's specifically it's the Lindell, is it the Lindell or whatever it is?
Yeah.
The ball. Anyway, the chocolate balls that are really rich. Those I've had those a couple times and I've gotten migraines and I'm like, dude, this is weird. So I stopped eating that. And bad coffee, if it's like, if it's really like freshly ground coffee and like nice beans or something, I don't have any problems. But if it's like, I don't know, something that's just ground and it's not good, like I'll get migraines from that sometimes.
Very interesting.
And cheese. Yeah, those. Yeah, the Lindor. I couldn't remember the name of it. Those things. Yeah. And certain cheeses will do it too, but weirdly enough.
Wow, this is fascinating.
Yeah, it's super weird. Super weird.
Only
Speaking of
foods that
cheese,
start with C.
what'd you say?
Only foods that start with C. Chocolate, coffee, and cheese.
That's super interesting. Didn't realize.
Weird. What does it mean?
It's a conspiracy, which also starts with C.
I'm trying to decode this now. Like, where's the conspiracy in there?
Also starts with C. Code.
C means 3 in numbers, so 333.
That's hilarious. Speaking of cheese, I got that. I tried the real Parmesan. What is it? The Parmesan.
Oh, Parmigiano Reggiano.
Yeah, I got some the other
And?
day at Trader Joe's, and I was like, okay, this. I can
Dude.
see why it's people obsessed over this.
The
cheese.
grandpappy of all cheeses.
It's really, really good.
Yeah,
I was really surprised by it.
You can literally almost any part of that cheese. You can even gnaw on the rind, and it's going to be delicious. It's outrageous.
Yeah, that's exactly what I got, and it was 100% authentic. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. Okay, it's good.
You didn't get a migraine.
No, didn't get a
You're in
migraine.
good shape.
Thankfully, yeah, no migraine. So anyway, all right. So we got.
Hey, you want to see this optical illusion?
Dude, this is weird. This is really, really strange. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about this.
Okay,
So
guys,
Lindsay's
check
gonna
this
show
out. Check this out.
What the media is proclaiming that's happening in this video is that a combination of like the way it's filmed and something with the wind and whatnot makes it this illusion to appear like it's not actually moving.
The only counter I would have to that nonsense is that it doesn't, like, we're talking about a plane. You have to go a certain speed in order to stay in the air. And it does not look like it's getting that far in front of that bridge. Like, you can tell when the
No.
video starts, it's behind the bridge. And then it does look like it's in front of it now, but it doesn't look like it's far enough in front of the bridge for it to still be floating. I mean,
Yeah, and
in the air.
people in the last few years, there's been a lot of videos that have been that have come out doing the same thing. Oh man, I keep breathing. But doing the same thing where they're just like frozen in the air, and like people on the ground are shooting it, you know, and some people are like, oh, it's photoshopped, but then it keeps happening, like something like this. So I don't know.
You ever see the one where it's like a bird flying and like it's going nowhere? It's just like,
Yeah.
it looks like I don't know, like, you know, a kink in the matrix.
It's not even like flapping its wings either. That one that you're talking about, it's just like looks like it's
Yeah,
just like
it's just
frozen
like-
in air. Yeah, it's so
Frozen.
weird.
I just coined a new term, kink in the matrix instead of glitch in the matrix, because I couldn't think of the word glitch. I'm in good shape.
Kink in the matrix.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right.
If I was doing like if I was having a rave in Zion, which is the Matrix City, I'd call it kink in the matrix. Just kidding. That's a terrible idea. All kinds
I
of
think they were already kind of doing that in the video anyway. So.
I don't know. That,
We're
like,
in the
that was always
movie.
the most uncomfortable part of those movies is I was like, their raving is just so off. I don't know.
It was very kind of awkward.
It was super
I felt
off.
like that was the only thing that didn't really go along in the movie itself.
It
was
really
that scene.
didn't.
No,
It's
it
like,
was
who is behind this?
Why did
I
they
don't know.
throw that in there? It just didn't really. It was like, yeah, okay, we're having this like serious, like we're about ready to go to war, and now let's just have this big party. And I don't know, man. I guess that's why they were thinking like, okay, you know, they're all gonna die. Might as well have a party, but I don't know anyway. All right. Next thing we have box musical like
Genius. His musical
composer
genius.
Bach. Yeah.
It was basically impossible. Check this out.
Yeah, he
A retrograde
really
inversion just means that it's turned upside down and played backwards at the same time. The brilliance of this piece is that it can be played backwards and forwards and upside down and right side up at the same time while all sounding like it chromatically fits.
He had to do this on purpose.
This is the absolute genius of Johann Sebastian Bach, and why we consider him one of the greatest composers of all time.
I kind of feel like it's not fair though. Like his name is Johann Sebastian. I think anyone with the name Johann Sebastian would automatically have to be a genius. Look at that guy's dome.
Yeah, man. He
I
is.
feel like his hair is a piece of architectural art. His hair is almost as genius as his music. Look at that. There's rhythm in his hair. People.
That wig was so popular back in those days.
Say it ain't so. That's not a wig. That's his real hair, right, Ben?
The
If
ladies
you want to
love
believe
it.
that.
So that thing that they just showed is a Mobius strip. And we were just talking about this thing after. Like a Mobius strip is you take a piece of paper, you turn it, and then attach both ends in it. You basically, if you were walking on this strip, you'd come back to the same spot eventually. Right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really, really cool formation. Like almost a paradoxical loop.
Yeah. When I was in school, I used to like make these, even though at the time, like I'm talking about like elementary school. I'd just be sitting here bored and like playing with stuff, and I would be making these shapes and try to figure out like, well, this is like never ending. Like you can't. It is one of those.
I love that
paradoxes.
vision of you doing that. And I love how now, instead of that, you're just there playing with a Rubik's Cube.
I upgraded.
You did. You upgraded.
Yeah, here's the Rubik's Cube I was playing with this earlier. That's funny.
Proof evidence. Okay, this is interesting. So a bright pink glow appears in UK skies as locals fear it's the end of the world.
Whoa,
Look at that.
I haven't seen this yet. This is crazy.
You know what's even crazier? Let me tell you what it is. It turns out it was artificial light from an agricultural company growing 400 million tomatoes. It's the biggest greenhouse complex in the country, covering 90 acres of land. Their LED lights reflect onto the clouds at certain times and freak people the heck out. They've become a spooky, glowing landmark.
Okay, so it was artificial. Okay, so it wasn't like tomatoes that were causing this. It was the
LED
light
lights reflecting off of the tomatoes. through
off
the
of
greenhouse.
tomatoes. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. 400 million tomatoes. That is a lot of tomatoes. So I guess that could potentially happen if you.
This looks like a scene out of like Harry Potter or whatever. Harry Potter.
It really does.
I think they're the grow lights or something. Like these are
Yeah.
probably pink lights. I doubt we're seeing the color of the tomatoes.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
Maybe you're right, but I would have no, because LED lights would be bouncing off of the tomatoes and then going into the air, right? Or no? That can't be.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, what? I mean, okay, granted, 400 million tomatoes is a ton of tomatoes, depending on how.
Yeah, but the tomatoes are on
Like-
green vines, and you have LED lights hit. How there would have to be so many tomatoes on these things.
That's what I can't figure it out either. It doesn't. I don't know. That's weird.
I feel like this is their weather balloon excuse for something else going on.
That's actually what I was thinking too. I'm like, is this just like an excuse for something? Like,
It's a weather tomato.
It's a weather tomato.
Well, hey, you guys at home, do you like
Alien
this
tomato.
weirder news that we just, showed you? Well, stay tuned for the top 10 weirder news of the week segment later on in the show, where you'll hear funny, strange, and spooky news to keep you laughing at the end of a long week.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, you got a Mandela effect for me.
I
think.
do. Yes, we'll get into the Mandela effects right now.
All right.
All right. This one actually took me by surprise. Noah's Ark. The story of him bringing all the animals.
Yes.
What's the number of each animal that he brought with him on the ark?
Was it 2 of each, right?
So this is what's crazy, is that this is what I remembered.
I don't remember this though.
Yeah,
I'm guessing it
okay.
had to have been.
Yeah. I mean, most people think it's 2, and when you look at all these examples, all these images, all these drawings. Like that's what I mean, I went to Bible school when I was little. That's what I remember. It was like Noah took 2 of every animal. Well, I saw this and I was like, wait a minute, what? And it said, the question that these headlines were asking, did Noah take 7 pairs or just 2 pairs of animals with him on the ark? This is literally what it's, because then I was like, okay, let me look at the actual
7
source.
would make more sense. So there wasn't inbreeding.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. So it does make more sense. It's just, what do we remember? And verse 7:2 in King James Bible says, okay, this is a little bit different. Okay, I'll just read the one that's on the screen. You shall take with you 7 each of every clean animal, a male and his female, 2 each of animals that are unclean, a male and his female.
What the heck does clean and unclean mean in this case? Sorry.
This is the other debate that I was like asking people too, like, what, just kind of like in general, like, what does this mean by clean and unclean?
And another question: how in the world was the ark big enough to hold all of these animals when that would be way too many animals?
I mean, according to the Bible, pigs are unclean. So then I guess there would be pigs. It would just be 2, but like giraffes maybe, or lions, like all these things are 7. But then it's like, this is not what is traditionally taught. So this to me was like super weird, because I'm like, wait a minute. I just thought it was like Noah just took 2 of every animal and brought it on the ark. So this to me is like, this was really weird. And then, like, Lindsay, can you pull up some of these like drawings? Yeah, just pull up some of these. So, because I started typing in Noah's Ark, and I'm not joking. Every photo I was looking at, or not photo, but like recreation of Noah's Ark.
Can I just interrupt and point out how cute those chipmunks are on the bottom left corner there? What the heck?
They're probably arguing They're
like,
other.
Hello, I'm here.
So, but in this photo, there's 2 of every animal.
True.
You don't have 7. And in every single of these drawings that I was finding, even this one with all these animals, there's always 2. I remember watching cartoons based on the Bible series, and there's always 2 of everything. So I don't know.
One explanation. King James is an alien. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
So then I was like, okay, maybe like, this was someone's interpretation of it. But then when I, like I said, we just read the part in the Bible, and I'm like, dude, I really don't remember that. Did
you guys watch Schoolhouse Rock when you were growing up?
Yeah.
I saw it in passing, but I couldn't be able to tell you like about it now.
The one that teaches you the 2 tables, like 2 times 2 is 4. That's all about Noah's Ark, and it shows 2 by 2 to teach kids how to do their times tables.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, one could argue like, okay, what's clean and unclean animals? I guess Noah knew, but anyway.
Somebody, an upset banana on YT said, I think it means edible animals and animals prohibited from consumption.
Probably.
I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of what I would guess too. But like, what about horses? I mean, 7 or 2? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you could eat a horse.
Well, yeah, in some cultures they would. But
look how happy those elephants look. I mean, seriously, can you look happier than that? Elephant? Elephant's like, I'm on Noah's Ark, guys.
Look, they have dolphins next to it. It's like
dolphins are like, dude, we don't need an ark.
Let's bring the dolphins on the ark. Yeah, anyway, it's really kind of it definitely threw me for a loop anyway. I'll definitely say that. So
that's why they call it the Mandela Effect.
For a reason. Yes.
All right. Why don't we play a trailer right now, and then we're going to get into Nestle.
Not Nestle. Nestle. Or we could talk about Nestle too, but
yeah. Lindsay, what do you think? I don't know what Lindsay's doing right now.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you
We
now.
can't hear it. We can now.
Whatever you guys want to do. You ready
Yeah,
for a trailer?
Let's play a trailer.
All right.
Less than a mile from shore, monsters of the seas were long thought to be myths. But some magic hunters sought power for themselves, believing that old legends held secret truths. Why did the famous occultist Aleister Crowley make his home on Loch Ness, which later became famous for its elusive creature? Why are there so many paranormal sightings in the area? What other creatures of the deep have been spotted in Scotland that are largely ignored or considered local folktales? The human mind enjoys impressive visions of unearthly creatures. Now then, the sea is precisely their best medium, the only setting suitable for the breeding and growing of such giants, next to which such land animals as elephants or rhinoceroses are mere dwarves. Find out what creatures may be a lot closer than 20,000 leagues under the sea. Join Edge of Wonder for a deep dive into the cryptids of the abyss.
All right, guys, you can find that series on our rise.tv platform, along with all the other series we did. We this month specifically, we have a whole Halloween special that we're dropping each week. Man, we just have so many episodes that Rob and I have done on Edge of Wonder on Rise TV. So well produced show that you can find on there. So if you haven't joined us, please consider joining us. For
Yeah, I mean, any
$9.99
mystery that you're interested in, we've most likely got a show on it at this point. So
Pretty
keep
much.
yourself busy.
We've pretty much done a show on everything. So yes.
Well, hey, what's going on with this Nestle? Nestle is closing an infant formula factory as China's birth rate plunges. And this is a CNN.com article. So first step is probably not true or the whole truth, but Nestle plans to close one of its plants that make baby formula, citing a sharp drop in China's birth rate.
Yeah.
Is it that, or I mean,
well, so that's actually the question, and I thought that's what we will get into. This article is saying that China's population, it's like basically like their economic growth is slowing down. The number of newborn babies in China has declined sharply from some 18 million per year in 2016 to fewer than 9 million projected in 2023. So more than half. That's kind of crazy. So this factory they had is in Ireland. And which is kind of strange. So it's like this factory's in Ireland, specifically making baby formula for the Chinese market only. And then this is the one that they're shutting down. But it's like, what's really going on in China is the big question, right?
Well, and what's that going to do to Ireland's economy? Because it's a Nestle, it's a massive Nestle factory.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, especially if it was producing people for infants in China. So, the other aspect is, in which this doesn't get into at all, is how many people in China have died since, COVID and all this stuff. And that's the big question, that the CCP were hiding a lot of the numbers because they wanted to look like, obviously this came from China. So they're like, oh, we're on top of everything and everything's fine. So they were like suppressing the number of deaths. And from what we were like uncovering, basically, it seems like it was way higher than what what the CCP was saying. So and that's been another thing. I mean, the Chinese economy is taking a massive hit, and it's on the verge of like total collapse, actually. And the people in the stock market industry, they all know it. And a lot of it stems from the real estate aspect. We were doing a show a couple like maybe a month or so ago. We were talking about the real estate aspect in China, and there was one company, one of the biggest real estate companies in China, hasn't paid their I guess you can say like the debts that they have. I mean, it's like a multi-billion-dollar company, and they skipped 2 of their payments. So a lot of people within like the stock industry and everything else were really worried, because if this company, it's like if this collapses, like 35% of the Chinese economy would go down with it, because 35% of the real estate industry in China makes up that much percentage of their GDP. So it has massive implications if something like that were to crumble. So then the question is, really what's going on with the Chinese decline in population? And I don't think any mainstream media is really going to get at the heart of what's happening.
No, why aren't they telling anyone? That's what's crazy. I mean, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on. If they're not telling people that that's happening, that doesn't make any sense.
Not at all.
Back in 2020, when COVID first got on the scene, I mean, there was lockdowns everywhere. So why would they not say that all these people were dying? I don't get it,
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Here they were inflating the numbers to, push all the stuff that they were trying to push. Over there, they're suppressing it because they want to look like they got ahead of everything. In reality, it's just like people were locked up in their homes, and like it was really, it's still really bad in China. And because of all of that, of what happened with how the CCP handled everything and people locked up, not being able to get just medicine in general, or even like good food, eating healthy for the last few years, like a lot of people in China, like their immune system is just really has taken a massive hit. So they're more prone to get, illnesses and things like that. Whereas like over here, a lot of us now have developed a lot of stronger immunity, whether, you got it or didn't get the whatever. But, so it's like, I don't think it's going to affect us quite as much as over there. And then, then the other aspect is like the whole workforce in China is really shifted. People are not buying things. And it's like, is people not buying things because, again, is it because there's less people in China, or is it because, people are trying to save their money and they don't want to buy as much? I mean, it's probably a combination of both, but something is
the latter does not seem realistic, because people need to buy things to survive, right?
And it's affecting every industry.
Yeah, and it also indicates there being people worried about something, right? So they're not going out, they're not shopping normally. So what's happening on the ground in China? That's the question.
That
what are they
is
not
the
telling
question.
us?
Yes.
And I mean, we're talking about a government that's lied more than any other ever in the history of ever. Like no comparison. It's like the entire structure of the CCP is built to lie. So we're going to believe that this Nestle factory shutting down is just, it's just less birth rate. The birth rate's gone down. It's like nothing about that makes any sense.
It doesn't at all. It really doesn't. And I bet even, so they were saying that it went from 19 million per year and then they're estimating this year to be fewer than 9 million. So less than half in 2023, which is just going to continue on from each year from at that point.
You know what's crazy about that, Ben?
What's that?
That could mean, if those numbers are accurate, we might be looking at half of the Chinese population that's been affected by whatever's going on there.
Whoa, dude.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Crazy.
That's a microcosm of the numbers of the entire population. That's crazy.
Wow,
It's
dude.
about 1.3 billion people in China alone. Whoa.
Yeah. Wow. Now, granted, because of the one child policy, it wasn't in place for so long. They finally removed that. So that's the thing. We should actually be seeing an increase
Yeah.
in births, but we're not. So yeah, I mean, how much of the population were affected? Now, granted, because of COVID, because of people were locked in their homes, because of how like insane the CCP handled all of this stuff. People obviously, it's like there is some situations where families don't really want to have kids right now because of the situation in China, or, people couldn't go out and do much in the last couple of years in China. They couldn't go out and meet each other and go on dates and, whatever. So a lot more people were just stuck in their homes. So that also kind of contributes to things, but that we shouldn't see a half of a drop off. So this is a lot. It's actually really scary when you kind of put it in perspective. And yeah. And the other thing was the cell phone too, so
That was
the
early
Epic
on.
Times. Yeah, the Epic Times really reported on this early during COVID, maybe 2021. They had an article.
60 million or 40 million or 60
I think it was
million
40 million. Yeah, all of a sudden, like 40 million phones just got deactivated because they weren't, according to them, they just weren't being paid for. But the question is, did those people die? That was always the question.
No one in China in their right mind is going to stop using their cell phone. The internet is the only outlet they have.
Right. Okay.
That's crazy.
I could see like a handful of people that were like, oh, okay, I can't afford my phone anymore. But the weird thing was how, here it is. Okay. China lost millions of cell phone users in 2020, official data. And this is from the Epic Times. And some of the other mainstream media was criticizing the Epic Times for reporting on this, but it's like, we're actually not just guessing here. This is like officially, like, I think the number was somewhere between 30 and 40 million cell phones were literally shut off in China in 2020. Why? That's always been the question. And so yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of other media do not understand when the Epoch Times reports on something that they should take it seriously. Like, you'd think they'd learn by now, but it's like the whole reason the Epoch Times was formed was literally to give a voice to people in China who were being actually persecuted. Like, there's no free press in China. You will not get real information from China. And so the Epoch Times comes on the scene, starts reporting truthfully on stuff. They've been ahead of the curve every single time something's happened, especially the Chinese.
Especially Chinese, yeah.
And then they start criticizing them for that. And that's actually a brilliant way to look at the data over there,
Okay, 21 million. I'm sorry. We said 40, but we were wrong. However, that's only from November of 2019 to February 2020. So, it could be I mean, I'm sure now it's well over 21 million. So
for sure.
probably so much higher, and that would actually be a really interesting way to see what's really happening with China. But I think I think like Nestle pulling out, we're going to start seeing more and more companies starting to pull out because the market is just no longer there, and something is dramatically changed.
Shifted. Look at Hollywood movies. Like they
Yeah.
were a couple of years ago, before COVID, they were trying to put Chinese people into their films any chance they could get, just because like the future industry was going to be China. And it's been not like, in fact, they've gone the opposite way in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going on.
So something, yeah, definitely something is going on. And yeah, and like even making products, a lot of places, you know, it's like like look at cars sell. I mean, almost every industry is struggling to keep up with the demand, like overseas, because all this stuff is coming from China. And the question is like, well, you know, factories should be up and running again. Is the simple fact that there's less people at these factories now, you know,
Right.
and if so, why specifically? Like, what's going on?
This was the infamous scene in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse where they showed the Chinese Epoch Times in the movie and refused to take it out. And so China actually canceled the entire movie from being seen in China.
Just because they showed an Epic Times box. And from what I remember, Epic Times didn't even know that it was in there.
No,
They had,
actually,
like,
what I heard is that there isn't a box at this place. So whoever made the movie purposely put this in there. That's what I heard.
That's so fascinating.
Could be, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be the simple fact that it was like, oh, you know, because yellow really stands out. So it's like, it's possible they were just like, oh, this will match the scene. Good contrast. We'll just have this box in there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, or somebody might have like been like, you know what? I'm going to try to put this in there.
They were like, you know what? Up China's butt. We're putting this in there. Probably with that accent.
Probably exactly with that accent. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's good talking about that, you guys, but we're going to get on to the next subject now, which is the U.S. is receiving dozens of UFO reports a month, senior Pentagon official says. So this office has received 800 reports to investigate as of this past April, up from 650 reports in August 2022. That's that's 150 more. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
This is from Sean Kirkpatrick, who heads up the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office at the Pentagon, and that's what he told CNN. And isn't that All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office the one that Grush was the head of it for a time?
I don't know if he was ahead of it. He might have been. I think this is the one that that is the official Pentagon website that's like releasing videos and information on UFOs. Kind of lame, honestly, but whatever. I'm surprised they're doing something. So at least we can say they're doing something.
Right.
But like the Tic Tac UFO is now like on there and whatnot, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, quote, there are some indicators that are concerning that may be attributed to foreign activity, and we are investigating those very hard, said Kirkpatrick, speaking exclusively to CNN ahead of the release of the annual report on unidentified aerial phenomena.
So what's really interesting is this term that they use, foreign activity. And this book I'm reading, the day after Roswell, and you know, some other what like other people have been talking about.
Yeah.
And I think even Bill Cooper mentioned it too. That so they were trying to think of a name for like all the stuff that they were getting from extraterrestrials, like all this technology and everything else, and they needed something super vague and general. So they literally came up with the term foreign technology. So when you hear that,
You think of another country.
Yeah, you're just thinking other country. So it's interesting that they used foreign activity. Like he said that directly, this Kirkpatrick guy, because to me that was kind of like a red flag. Like, oh, it's like that, because that's so vague. Like, what is foreign activity? It could be anything, specifically. So
foreign planet.
Yeah, foreign planet, exactly. And the guy who wrote that the day after Roswell book, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, Colonel something, but he
Colonel Sanders.
No, not
his name was.
But he was saying that because it was just foreign technology, any document that they had would have that foreign technology, and it's like no one would really even look at these documents because it was just like, like what the heck is foreign technology? Like who cares? It sounds super boring and just some jargon thing, with like the day after. Yeah, this is it. Philip Corso. That's his name. So anyway, he was talking about that specifically. So I just thought that was really weird and then it was like, great. He's like, then after we coined this term, it's like we could do all this stuff and nobody within like the military were asking any questions because it was just like, oh, send this to the foreign technology guys or whatever, and they started just getting all this equipment. And that's where he actually said the biggest thing that they received from the Roswell crash out of all this stuff. And there was a whole list of stuff that they got. The best thing that they got was night vision.
What?
Night vision.
Oh, they got night vision from Roswell?
Yes.
I thought you were going to say, because I know they got Kevlar from there.
And all of that's included. But for the military, the greatest piece of technology was night vision.
Interesting.
And they noticed it in the crash right away, but people were too afraid to look into it because they thought that would like burn their eyes or something. And then it was a total
Matter, Colonel Sanders. Chicken. Remember that?
Right, which kind of leads into the whole Cold War too. So and what happened? Sorry, man,
your camera frozen?
My camera keeps freezing on me. Okay, anyway. So why don't we're going to show another trailer, and when we get in, we'll get into a brief discussion on the Cold War.
Sounds good.
The Bermuda Triangle is one of the most mysterious and paranormal places in the world. Ships, planes, and people disappear there, never to be seen again.
Are the paranormal aspects of these disappearances really just a myth?
Are the tales of boats vanishing off the face of the earth telling us something strange is going on?
Why are some missing boats showing up later completely intact, but the entire crew disappeared without a trace?
Most compelling of all, phantom ships are still being spotted at sea as mysterious ghost ships.
And that's the truly bizarre, mysterious, and fascinating research we did for you today.
So strap on your goulashes and hold on tight to the edge. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
I've always wanted a pair of goulashes. Just so that I could say it.
I have some goulashes.
Ben, could you hand me my goulashes? Keep my feet dry.
I always get confused on that. And what's the soup dish? Sounds similar.
It's called goulash.
Yeah, right. It is, right?
I think it is.
That's why I'm like, wait a minute.
I think it's called goulash.
That's why I'm like, wait a minute. Am I thinking of the right thing?
What would be like paradoxical is eating goulash out of a pair of goulashes
while you're wearing a pair of goulashes. Oh man, that'd be funny. That'd be really funny. Well, anyway, you guys, that's our Halloween series that we were talking about earlier. We have the also what we came out with was the the Cleveland torso murders. And it was a massive episode, or almost like a documentary long video that we did, all about the background and the history about it. Probably something you've never heard of before. And the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, or the Cleveland torso murders. And then, coming into weird possessed things and hauntings that we did. And then, of course, we have the missing ghost ships. So, well, you can find all of that on Rise TV right now.
Sounds about right for Halloween.
Yeah, definitely does. So,
all right. So what's up with this the Cold War and UFO cover up here?
It's so fascinating because, obviously we know that during the Cold War there was like a lot of cover up stuff with UFO related things, and especially like after Roswell and what happened and Project Blue Book and like all this stuff, right? Well, what's so interesting is that there's been multiple things I've been looking into, and that the guy that wrote that book that I was talking about, Day After Roswell, he was one of them. But there's other sources too that I was hearing all about, about how both Russia and the US were actually kind of working together in during the Cold War. And like, I found information to support this. It's just like, I couldn't really figure out why. But then it was supposedly because of the extraterrestrial threat.
Huh.
So when Roswell happened, the reason why they said we can't tell the world about this is because, one, they looked at how the population responded for War of the Worlds, the radio broadcast, right? And everyone freaked out.
So out. Yeah.
The other thing was they didn't have the technology to really stand against any extraterrestrial threat. And for the first time ever, it was like, wow. They really, it seems like the military and the government really looks at extraterrestrials as a threat. So it's like, how can we tell the world that there's this extraterrestrial threat, but we have no defense against it? So they wanted time to kind of figure out what was going on. And the Cold War provided a perfect opportunity for them to have the budget to just start manufacturing weapons and doing reverse engineering technology stuff with all this alien things that they were finding. So secretly, they were making all these nuclear weapons on both sides, but it didn't really seem either side had any intent on using them against each other. And besides, both the KGB and the CIA were so infiltrated with each other's spies.
Yeah.
that they were like, most of the time, like each side knew what was happening before even like people high up in the military even knew what was going on in their own country, So anyway, it provided a really good cover for them to manufacture weapons just in case there was some kind of extraterrestrial threat. And they already knew that they were abducting people, and they were doing the testing on cow, or the cattle mutilations and everything else. So anyway, it was just kind of a really interesting factor behind the Cold War that I had like all these pieces, and I was trying to put them together, and then that was kind of the one piece that I was missing. It was like, oh, that's really interesting. That's probably why. But also, and even this article that you were reading earlier goes into, it says most sightings and observations come from near restricted military airspace. So, this report that they were looking into in this investigation found that, a lot of these are coming from military airspaces and bases. So, again, it's probably some kind of extraterrestrial thing surveying what kind of weapon systems and communications and just all of the above that we have to defend ourselves. And so anyway, it was just another really factor behind all of this.
Well, and maybe the race in the Cold War was not against Russia. Maybe it was, like you said, like it was a threat that they found that went way beyond anything they had realized before. And so both countries were
developing
desperately
nuclear-
trying to develop technology, and probably, and I mean, we know that the Russians and the United States were working together on different projects during the Cold War. Why would they be doing that unless it was for an external threat?
Yeah,
That's
100%. That was the question that I had for so long, because that's like kind of that's not like secret government information that got leaked. I mean, you can find those documents now that they were literally working together in certain projects, and they were like, why the heck? How are they working together? Especially when you look at Antarctica. That was one of the big things during the Cold War. Both the U.S. and Russia sent people there, and they were just like, it's like, yeah, we're in Antarctica and there's no war here, and everyone's cool and we're all working together. So it's like, why? Anyway, that kind of it kind of makes sense now and kind of put things in perspective.
Yeah, well, you guys, we have a crazy deep dive on quartz crystals that we're going to get into right now. So quartz crystals detected swirling in an exoplanet's atmosphere. This is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So astronomers using the James Webb Space Telescope have for the first time detected tiny quartz crystals containing silica, a common mineral on Earth, within the atmosphere of a blazing hot exoplanet, WASP 17b. Now, it's likely that yeah, I know, it's a weird name. I don't know. Scientists name things weird. It's likely that the nanoparticles of silica, which on Earth appears in beach sands and is used to produce glass, swirl from the clouds of the exoplanet. Now, just for context, this is one of the largest exoplanets known. It's 1,300 light years from Earth, and it's more than 7 times the volume of Jupiter. And each crystal is 1/1,000,000th of a centimeter. So that's basically 10,000 grains could fit side by side across a human hair. That's how tiny this is. Yeah, it's really interesting, but it kind of set us on this deep dive about quartz just in general.
Mm-hmm.
So its unit cells, aka the smallest building blocks of the atomic grid that reflect the properties of crystals, are hexagonal. So it has hexagonal unit cells. That's really weird. And it's the most abundant mineral in the Earth's crust. It's plentiful in all parts of the world. It's resistant to chemical and physical weathering. This is why rocks that contain quartz last so long. Like limestone that contain it or whatever, they'll last for a really long time.
Yeah, that's true.
So when rocks weather away, the residual material usually contains quartz. This is why the sand at most of the world's beaches is quartz. Now, quartz forms at all temperatures. It's extremely durable. It's the dominant mineral on mountaintops, and it has piezoelectric properties. So you can piezoelectrical charge this stuff. It's contained in filters and purifies groundwater systems in nature. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So this stuff filters everything.
Yeah, that's why crystals are actually really, really amazing. When you really,
Yeah.
And not only that, I mean, they're in like every piece of technology that we have. And then like also like LCD screens are liquid crystal display. I mean, it literally is like crystal technology that we're experiencing firsthand. So
yeah, there's some other interesting things here. Like, do crystals have special properties? Crystal-like relics are found in monks when they're cremated at death, are called cerera. These are not bones or teeth, but a sort of like hard nugget or deposit, like some sort of crystalline structure.
Yeah, mainstream science will be like, oh, this is just like bones or teeth, but then it's like, okay, if a normal person is cremated, how come
they don't have it?
They don't have that. Yeah, and they're very like crystalline kind of looking almost like stones. And literally, when they cremate monks, they find these within them. So supposedly it's like like as they're meditating and doing all these things and like, you know, bringing energy into their body, the science behind it, I guess in like a spiritual science aspect, you could say, is that these things are literally forming from this like energetic things that they're bringing into their body. I mean, it's like the Dantian, you know, if you look at a lot of Chinese, especially Chinese martial arts, even Kung Fu, it will talk about the Dantian and how you're bringing energy into the Dantian, which is kind of like the solar plexus area. And so for monks and people even in martial arts, it's like this energy accumulates, and it's literally almost from, like, you could say, like almost like another dimension or something like that forms, and they find these things in various different people when they're cremated.
You know, it's
and
weird.
so, some of it's on display in India and whatnot. But what were you gonna say? Mhm.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you know, what's weird is like as you were talking about this, and I've been watching all these videos recently on, I think it's Instagram or something, of this. They're just clips of this guy basically theorizing that a lot of the red rock is actually material from organic beings that have hardened over time. And it's like, what if the crystal is something like this? Like,
Yeah,
it's some type of organic material that hardens and becomes one of the most prominent substances on Earth.
I mean, you could say the same thing about like a lot of precious, like look at diamonds too.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's like
Something
you
we
know,
don't understand.
something from another, like what would it manifest in another dimension? You know, that's like the really curious part. Like, what if like diamonds like manifest in this, like, you know, and then maybe that's why they're so sought after. And, you know, diamonds are indestructible too. So it's like, I mean, I truly believe that everything has some kind of form in other dimensions.
And you know what's weird?
So
It's
what's
weird.
that?
It's like the ocean is salt water, but your tears are salt water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of weird. It's like our bodies emulate what's already happening on the ocean, but it's like, oh, there's something there, you know?
Don't doesn't our blood crystallize if it dries? I could be wrong. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if it
I have to kind of look
crystallizes.
more into that.
Yeah. But anyway, you know, geysers and hot springs occur when hot water passes through underground quartz-rich rocks, dissolving minerals and bringing them to the surface. So
I did not know that. in
Yeah.
fact. So that's
National
really
parks have like tons of quartz deposits too. Well, and
Wow.
then of course, you know, going back in time, in Plato's account of Atlantis, Atlanteans used crystals in their advanced society.
Mhm.
Sumerians and Egyptians used or wore crystals as well. And crystal, the word crystal, comes from the Greek word crystallos, meaning coldness drawn together, or a kind of ice.
'Cause it
Some
does
philosophers
kinda-
thought the mineral was a form of super cooled ice.
it does look like ice a little bit.
does.
Yeah. Yeah. It's similar.
Quartz comes from the German Polish quarty, meaning hard.
Just a hard crystal.
Now, this is interesting too, the quartz crisis. So, the quartz crisis was the upheaval in the watchmaking industry caused by the advent of quartz watches in the 1970s and early 1980s that largely replaced mechanical watches around the world. It caused a significant decline of the Swiss watchmaking industry, which chose to remain focused on traditional mechanical watches, while the majority of the world's watch production shifted to Japanese companies that embraced the new electronic tech. So quartz watches are now considered subpar battery watches, and fancy watches now are all the mechanical ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you were talking about the, you know, you mentioned Atlanteans. I mean, yeah, a lot of people believe that there was some kind of they were able to harness the energy from the crystals to use it to whatever generate things, and then of course there's that cartoon movie too that Disney did, at Lost City of Atlantis or whatever, and they're flying these, like, I don't know, flying machine things, and it's all activated through the crystals that they're wearing. They're like putting in the machines, and then that's how they're flying and everything else. So, I really believe there's probably something to that. I mean, like, when you really look into Sedona as well, I mean, basically Sedona is just a massive crystal land,
Yeah.
But of course it's like covered with rock, but then once you break that rock, I mean, all it is it's just this, it's like this massive crystal. And like, I've never found any hard evidence. Of course, we do know that ancient civilizations, where there's remnants of, like, old structures and things around Sedona and in Sedona. But it always made me wonder if like the cathedral rock was once upon a time some kind of like crystal palace that,
I always think, like, when I'm looking at the Grand Canyon, or even like, what's the rocks that are out on shore in Oregon that you can see from the sea? They're like jutting up out of the ocean.
yeah, I know what
They
you're
always
talking
look
about. I
like
can't remember the
old
name.
structures that have just, like, over time deteriorated,
All of it does. All of it does. So it's really kind of interesting. And of course, like, for I like interviewed Bill Holman, who is, like, I guess you could say, the caretaker of the first original crystal skull, which is the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull. And I had a whole interview with him with the skull in front of us. And what makes the skull so unique is that he's had multiple scientists look at it, and not a single one of them can really explain the skull. It's such an anomaly. They're like, it goes against the grain of the actual crystal. So if any tool was made with this, it would have shattered the crystal, because it's like going against how the crystal was naturally formed. There's also no tool marks, and it's basically like a real skull. That's like the thing that everyone kind of comes down to. It's like, if I were to hold up this skull and a real skull, aside from like maybe the size and whatnot, it's almost like made in nature. Like it was formed and not created, or not like made by hands or a machine or anything else. No one can figure out how it was made. So, and of course that thing is like super crazy. I don't so many experiences with that skull. All I can say is, like, it's alive. It's like it's like there's information that is stored in that thing that's like super old. I would say at least 100,000 years old. And supposedly if you put them all together, then it like will reveal something about the origin of humankind or something like that.
Why don't we get them all together? What's the
Well,
whole...
I mean, each group is trying, depending on what group you're talking about. I mean, like from Bill was telling me things privately that we didn't put in the interview. So I won't. Well, I think he did tell me that the Rothschilds.
Okay, you can tell me after the show.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this: the Rothschilds have been trying to purchase that skull from him or from the family for a very long time, and they refused to sell it. But he had it. People try to steal it from him multiple times, and not just like, oh, I'm going to go on the bus and steal it. I mean, it was like, hey, we're going to take you on this trip. We're going to bring you to this place, blah, blah, blah. And it was like the whole thing was a massive setup where they were going to take it from him. And the skull alerted him, like he just got this warning, like, we need to get out of here right now. And it was like, he made a phone call and he pretended that he was like, oh, I'm just going to call my wife. And he was just having a normal conversation, but he was able to reveal in that conversation, I'm in great danger. My life is in danger. And she was able to help him like get out of the situation. And she called the police and everything. And eventually like he was able to like leave. But anyway, he's got a lot of stories like that. And like every situation he just felt this massive sense of danger, and he kept thinking it like he was associating it with the skull. The skull was like alerting him to this stuff. So
The skull was giving him telepathic hits. That's great.
Pretty crazy stuff. But anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, we could go on and on here about crystals. Like we were saying, electrical properties being piezoelectric and heat resistant make it valuable in electronics, of course. Also, its melting temperature is higher than most metals, so quartz can be used for foundry sand in molds and cores of metalwork and stuff like that. Granite has quartz in it, used for countertops. All electronics use crystals, LCDs, liquid crystal display. Those are a thing. Microchips work because of crystals. Of course, they can be all kinds of different colors.
Yeah, and they're not too expensive either. And they supposedly have a lot of healing properties as well.
Yeah. They can now this is interesting. They can vibrate at extremely precise frequencies. So they can be used to make very accurate timekeeping instruments and equipment that can transmit radio TV signals with precise, stable frequencies.
Yeah, imagine what we could do with we really, military
weapons.
Well, and it makes me wonder, how is the military using these things? And a lot of movies, it's like, some futuristic weapon that they have has to do with some kind of crystal that they need to like put inside of it to whether charge it or it's like, oh, we need to direct this laser beam and this like special crystal thing needs to be inside of it. There's a lot of like movies and like cartoons and stuff that just like talk about those things.
Yeah, a couple more here. So high purity silica sand is used in glass making, lenses, telescopes, windows, etc. One of the first known uses of quartz is in the form of flint. It's the production of sharp objects like knives, blades, scrapers, and projectile points like arrowheads. So flint has quartz in it. Certain varieties have magnetic properties, so when you suspend them, they align with the Earth's magnetic field, serving as natural compasses. This is crazy material, man.
I didn't know that. Yeah, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And it's like, if you, a lot of things I was reading too, because we know so many people into crystals. Probably a lot of people in this chat's like, you guys didn't talk about this and this and this. But anyway, I keep freezing. But okay. But anyway, the other aspect is sound. Really, when you combine crystal and sound, it can amplify like a whole healing frequencies and everything else.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that are focusing on that, like a sound ball made like, having elements of crystal in it and whatnot. So yeah, crystals are really, and they're so abundant too. So it's kind of cool.
Well, hey, you guys, we're going to go over to rise.tv in a second. Just wanted to take an opportunity to talk to you guys for a minute about what's now out on rise.tv in case you can subscribe and support our work. We have on Edge of Wonder, the Bermuda Triangle and ghost ships that still haunt the seas. Pretty awesome episode. Creatures of the Night, world's oldest ghosts, time travel mysteries, and top Halloween world records, which we did just recently. That was a killer show. Scary hauntings, vanishings, and a message in a tombstone, which was
Bermuda Triangle is one of the most mysterious and paranormal.
Whoop. Lindsay's playing my voice. I was like, why am I talking at myself? So for the metaphysical show, we have interdimensional portals, mining, superstitions, and Tommyknocker sightings, cave creatures part 1, toxic waste creature, deep oil drilling alien, cave serpent, and missing people, fiction or prediction. Don't want to miss that. Real trolls, dwarves, elves, and cave creatures that shouldn't exist, plus 2 exclusive Halloween episodes.
Mysterious
on
and
the
fascinating
Ohio
research we did for you today.
So strap on your goulashes and hold on tight for the edge. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
What?
We can hear that, right?
I can't hear that. I muted the site.
No, we're totally listening. It's funny. You get us 4 times now, or all at once. Oh man!
All right. Well, anyway, there's 2 exclusive Halloween episodes on the Ohio Melonheads in the abandoned Dudleytown Dark Entry Forest. This is very, very interesting content. So if you guys can come on over, we're going to do a live Q&A now and then go into the top 10 weirder news of the week. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Ben, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll see you guys over on rise.tv.
Yep, we will. Who was the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run? The Cleveland Torso murders are some of the most gruesome killings that have ever taken place in America. Some believe it was worse than Jack the Ripper's crimes.
On September 5th, 1934, this small, forsaken neighborhood that probably would have faded away into oblivion etched its name in history.
And the weird part is that there were very suspicious circumstances revolving around the suspects, which adds even more mystery to these horrible crimes.
Little did they know at the time that this would end up becoming the biggest investigation in the Cleveland Police Department's history.
Because this is an Edge of Wonder Halloween special, and I promise we'll try to make you laugh through this dark topic.
All right. It's time for Q&A.